Oh snap, we're back with another Marvel Snap video. As today we got a bit of a different video as we're going to be going over the leaked May 9th balance updates. The Oda patch that's going to be happening tomorrow has been leaked, even though it's not 100% confirmed. It's pretty safe to assume. I've been told that this is part of the domain that Marvel Snap owns, so it's a legit source, and it's a very in my opinion, it's a rather controversial balance patch, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to let you guys know what I think about the changes, what I think about what wasn't changed, and overall my impressions regarding Marvel Snap's balance team. I'll try to be respectful with this video, because on my stream I can really go off and just kind of like have no filter. But I'll try to be a little bit professional about it while I'm recording. Let's talk about it, because there's a lot to talk about. Regarding the new card Blink, don't you worry, I'm working on decks on her. I didn't want to rush content with her, like expect the deck on her tomorrow, because, you know, I wanted to make sure that I shared something decent with you guys. That wasn't the obvious ramp Electro setup that it seems like everybody's going for. Naturally, it's a really strong combo. I think it's a card that offers a lot, and I'm excited to explore less obvious deck ideas built around it. And also Nocturne is a card that I'm going to be getting. I have 4 Spotlight keys ready for today's stream, and I'm going to be getting that new card as well and building decks with it too. Though I do believe Nocturne is not really a build around card. It's just kind of like a good card that you incorporate into many decks. So having that set, expect that tomorrow. Today we're going to talk about the Oda update. This week's Oda update features a handful of small tweaks to power, with more sizable buffs to a pair of baddies from the Age of Ultron. As right off the bat, we see a nerf to Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike, for those of you who don't know, got reworked not that long ago. I think it's only been like a couple of weeks, maybe 3 at max, in which Lady Deathstrike went from a 5-4 to a 5-7. Massive buff to the card, but her ability was changed. She no longer... or what she destroyed was no longer, you know, reliant on her power, right? Lady Deathstrike was initially designed to be able to pair well with hand buffing strategies. The problem is the game has barely any way to buff hands, like reliably. You have Nakia, and besides that, you don't really have anything besides something like Forge for something you're gonna play, or America Chavez. Like right now in the card pool, hand buffing is just not there. I think a concept like Lady Deathstrike could be really good, like the old one, I mean, if the card pool was made to support it. But as of now, it isn't, and they decided to go with a more generic take on the card, in which we have a version of the card that is more reliable because it doesn't need to combine with other cards to get you good value. What do I mean by good value? When you play 5 energy for something, you generally want to be hitting at least 12 power. You know, obviously, like, that's not exactly the case for, you know, you play stuff like Dr. Octopus, which is 10 power, but you're kind of like sacrificing some stats for a very powerful disruptive effect. But generally speaking, when it comes to like pure math, like you want to aim for something like that. Lady Deathstrike being 7 power means that if she kills 2 units, she represents 13 power. And that already is a very respectable point swing in your favor. That also allows you to kill stuff like Jeff, Mobius, etc. Combined, like I like Lady Deathstrike specifically in high evolutionary decks with Cyclops, because I can pin down a lane, I can put the likes of Hope Summers down from 4 to 3, and then I can sniper with Lady Deathstrike, which is really nice. I thought the card was an excellent addition to the game. I thought I really liked the change. The card I said was going to be really good. Here they say that they're happy that the latest update to Lady Deathstrike created space for this card in the metagame. However, its performance indicates we overshot that mark by just a hair. Deathstrike has become one of the best cards in the game for the last few weeks, and even the top performer in some Annihilus shells, that's right, over Annihilus himself. Given we're seeing those decks overperform a little bit, we're addressing both issues by taking away a little power here. It's important to note that Second Dinner does have access to raw data that the rest of us don't, right? So obviously a lot of our opinions and our takes are founded our own subjective perspective. I say subjective because, you know, we can get really irritated by stuff. I am definitely biased towards certain decks, though I do feel like I have a good foundation for my dislike towards them. And you know, it's important to note that, yeah, like I'm not gonna deny this statement. I'm saying this because I don't like this change, but I'm not going to deny the fact that they've looked at the data and been like, wow, decks with Lady Deathstrike are doing really, really well. Sometimes a card excels, but the community doesn't really complain about it, right? We could be in a situation where, you know, a week or 2 weeks from now, people start really complaining about Lady Deathstrike being too good. But I argue that Lady Deathstrike is always going to be very meta dependent, and the kind of cards that she punishes is actually good because they are cards that are perhaps a little bit overrepresented in the early to mid stages of the game in a bunch of decks. I'm talking about Jeff and the likes of Mobius, right? Like being able to one-shot those cards, you know, kind of like makes the metagame more balanced, in my opinion. But I could see her overperforming by a little bit. Okay, I can see that. I'm not denying that. I still think this change is completely out of touch because we haven't even had a month for this card to really like put in the work, and nobody in the community was complaining about it. Nobody had an issue with it whatsoever. And the card, like the fact that they only changed 1 point, really indicates that this was not an urgent change that needed to happen. And what is upsetting to me personally is not the fact that they nerfed Lady Deathstrike, is that they nerfed Lady Deathstrike, and as we're about to see, Darkhawk, but they don't even mention, in my opinion, what are the two biggest defenders of this meta by a mile, like by a fucking mile. And yeah, I may get a little bit tilted throughout this video. We see some people talking in my chat, but you know, I'm recording a video right now, so they'll join us in the conversation. Actually, you know what? Let's keep this professional. I'm sorry, guys, but I can't control what you say, so let's play it safe. As yeah, we continue. So, Darkhawk got changed. Darkhawk. People always say I pronounce it Darkhawk. I don't know, man. Darkhawk goes from 5/4 to 5/3. And you may be wondering, people play this card? Yes, people started playing it. It was starting to. They even say it. It may sound surprising, but again, their data shows that Darkhawk is actually performing well. And they nerf it. I don't see the point. Like, it says it's spent the majority of the time since as one of the highest win rate cards in the game, often the highest. But you also have to keep in mind that Darkhawk's play rate was very low. Like, you have to factor in the fact that sometimes win rates can be inflated by the card being played by good players and the card actually not being like overly represented. Because let's be real, none of us were running into Darkhawk on a regular basis, not even close. Like maybe one out of every 30 games for me was a Darkhawk deck. I don't even know if that's the case. Like, that's how low represented this card was. And yes, the win rate may be crazy because some people have figured out some good decks with him, but he was like, it was not, in a way, the metagame was not being altered because of this. Nobody was complaining about Darkhawk. A lot of people still think Darkhawk was bad. They are very well wrong about that, but it just feels like it's one of those cases where people are starting to figure something out, and before they even get to figure it out properly, they axe it again. And it's just frustrating because we have cases like these in which we have cards that we haven't even had enough time for them to really shine. But then we have Hela and Loki, and you just refuse to fucking do something about those cards. Like, are we for real? Are we for real? Like, please explain to me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, buffing Leech and making it absolutely terrible. I am terrified of this change, by the way. I'm gonna dive into it. Changing that does not all of a sudden make Hela okay. It's like literally taking the sticker and putting it on the breach. Like, it's that fucking meme. It literally is. We have two cards that are fundamentally highly problematic for the game. I don't care what anybody says. They are highly problematic for the game as a design. Like, from a design perspective is what I'm trying to say here. Like, Hela turns the game into a dice roll. I've said this a million times. I'm like a broken record with this shit, but I'll say it again and again and again until they do something about it, because this is ridiculous. We have a card that is so strong that it it went from what was considered to be a meme to a card that just like will automatically win the game if it's able to sequence its cards properly, because it is pretty much invulnerable to all attacks. The change to Leech is their answer to Hela, instead of addressing her directly, because they refuse to do so. They just at this point, it's just like stubbornness. It's really crazy, and it really shows. Like, you can apply this mentality of like, no, let people figure things out, let the meta evolve and stuff. But then shit like this happens, where a card has been changed and not even like 2 fucking weeks have passed and they are already nerfing it. So that just does not apply. Like, they are, what I am concerned about is that they are set on, we want Hela to be the way it is. We want Hela to be in the game because Hela attracts players who are more into, gambling essentially, and we want to give them like a strong, rewarding archetype for that. So basically, you queue into Hela, they play turn 1 Blade, discard the Infinite, drop the Corvus Glaive, cross fingers, don't discard Hela, they win. That's literally all a Hela deck needs to do. 2 discarders, one of them being Corvus Glaive, Hela on 6, game over. How is that compelling gameplay? How is that healthy for the game when you have no reliable counters for it? Ever since Corvus, I made a tweet recently, ever since Corvus Glaive was printed, reliable counters towards Hela cease to exist. This is their answer to that. Okay, Corvus Glaive is a thing, let's make Leech a 4/2. Which is a crazy, scary buff. And I just hate it. I just hate that this is their answer to Hela. Like, this is their way to fix such a big problem. Loki, what is my issue with Loki? My issue with Loki revolves less around pure power level, even though I think its power level is extremely high. I just think the reason Loki is so crazy is because with a Quinjet on the board, Loki allows you to copy your opponent's hand and play everything for 2 less energy. It goes against deck building for me, but that's more of like a biased sort of like take. I feel like Loki rewards, in a way, Loki's rewarding the person using it as they're taking advantage of somebody who built a good deck, basically. Like, that's just how I see it. Because fundamentally, like, no matter, it doesn't matter if you're limited to the last 2 turns of the game. If you're able to play your opponent's cards for 2 less energy, you're gonna be able to play a lot more cards than them. And that's what it fundamentally comes down to. Loki is a deck that just takes your deck and just plays it better than you, because they get to play more cards than you. And they get to combine the cards and all that stuff, and it's just too efficient. Like, I've been advocating for Loki to receive a significant power boost and take away the cost reduction. Because I do believe that Loki is one of the worst things to play. It feels really bad to build a deck, queue on the ladder, run into Loki, and have them play all your cards while you're like way more limited because of the energy, and it's just a really bad feeling. It's not proper design, and it's, in a way, like, Loki is what I like to call lazy design, because instead of trying to establish like new archetypes, you're just literally creating I play the opponent's deck, and you're making it so efficient. Like, the fact that Loki used to be a 3-cost play boggles my mind. Like, that is just like, I cannot believe people with brains led to a situation like that. See, I'm starting to let's hold back the punches a little bit. But god fucking damn it, dude. Like, Loki and Hela, like, my 2 biggest issues with the game, and no, let's not address them at all. Even stuff like Professor X is inherently problematic. Lady Deathstrike and Darkhawk. Okay, all right. This just brings me back to the Adam Warlock change, and it makes me legitimately concerned. Like, are the developers, like, are they actually playing the game and not just like looking purely at stats? Like, that is where I'm at right now. Like, it really is that off for me. Leech, 4 power to 4 energy, 2 power, incredible buff. Like, paying 1 power for 1 less energy cost in a game like Marvel Snap specifically is a gargantuan buff, and nothing short of that. It's been a while since Leech terrorized the Snap ladder. How about we do that again? Instead of, trying to redesign and turn Hela into a healthy card, we're going to bring back the card that everybody hated. Second dinner, baby. In particular, Hela's new access to energy gain has meant the 5-card leech can't always stop the big resurrection plan. All right. You know, and maybe this is the problem. Oh, no, maybe just make leech a 4/2. Okay. This is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. I think a lot of people are not aware of how strong leech is going to be as a 4 energy play, especially with the introduction of Blink. Blink, the new card, now plays extremely well with this new version of Leech. You can play Leech on turn 4, completely deny all on-review effects for the opponent, and then play Blink and swap that 2-power body with like something actually relevant while developing 7 points on top of that. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Leech into Blink. It is mathematically impossible that will not be a meta deck. It's just that fucking strong of a combo. So yeah, that's going to be wild. Leech is going to overtake the meta, and yeah, we're going to be running into that. And it's going to have really big implications because not only is it hitting Hela, it's also hitting Annihilus. It's hitting, I mean, the fact that it hits Cannonball is not really a good point because the vast majority of the time, Cannonball is played on turn 6. So this is not really a good example. But the Hela and Annihilus, definitely. Like the Annihilus there is very, very relevant. And a bunch of others that aren't mentioned there, of course. You know, most of the effects in Marvel Snap are on reveal effects. So naturally, that's going to be really impactful. Definitely I think the strongest buff out of all these, and a crazy one at that, and going to be meta defining to a high degree. So get ready, because Leech is back and potentially stronger than ever. Oh my goodness. Psylocke got reverted 2-1 to 2-2. Not much to say here. Ever since the Thanos deck was reworked, the nerf to Psylocke, which honestly was a bit of a cop-out to begin with, they undid. You know, good thing, honestly. Very, very solid. Like, there's no reason Psylocke shouldn't be 2-power for what she does, and big fan of that change. Good job there. Sauron buff from 3-2 to 3-3, also great buff. I don't really see Sauron too often. It's a fun fact, Sauron used to be one of the top performing cards in the game. And I think this buff will actually help, giving you a little bit of extra power, which is what that deck wants. It's basically a point slam deck. Sauron will definitely be more useful here. It won't really completely change, like make or break the card, but it is definitely a nice buff for the card to receive, and I think it warrants it. Claw, oh my god, Claw went from giving 6 power to the right location to giving 8 power to the right location. Ladies and gentlemen, Claw is back. Claw is back. That is 12 points. What did I say earlier about 5 drop plays? 12 points. Just like that. Spread out across 2 different locations. That is legit. There are decks that are going to love that. Professor X decks, for example, will benefit from that, but a bunch of others as well. Like, we can even see this, maybe like Claw into Namora, I think it's her name, I'm not sure. I just took Namor and added an A. If that's the name, that's really funny, because that's not very inspired at all, but yeah, I think it's Namora. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it really Namora? Is that can't be, it can't be that, like, come on. Whatever her name is, yeah, could definitely play well into this, and there's a bunch of things to factor in. Like, Claw got power crept by Miss Marvel, and this is, it's not exactly like Miss Marvel should not be at the same power level of Claw, don't get me wrong, because Miss Marvel has a condition that needs to be met, so that warrants her being stronger, but the power gap between the two was too large, considering Claw was 1 more energy. This balances things out quite a bit more. It's a very nice buff, and I, for one, am excited to bring Claw back into some of my decks, especially because Claw can be an amazing cube stealer. Like, he does steal cubes. People don't see him coming, and with 8 power, oh my god, that's going to be a very relevant way to push power into a location without adding cards onto it. As last, but definitely not least, ladies and gentlemen, we got a buff to Ultron. On reveal, deploy 4 1-power drones to each other location. The drones have gone from 1-1 to 2 power. Now they're each 2 power, which means that in a location with no cards, an Ultron play will provide you more points than a Doctor Doom. without taking Patriot or Blue Marvel or any of sort of like that kind of synergy into account. Like on its own, you're putting 6 power onto every location if those location is empty. Massive for Patriot decks, mainly for Patriot decks, but also Dazzler decks as well. Maybe like Dazzler Patriot hybrids. Just great buff to an 8-drop that to a 6-drop that was essentially, I said 8-drop because he has 8 power. Great buff to a 6-drop that was fundamentally forgotten. It was deemed to be one of the very worst 6-drops in the game, and now it's changed. There were still like scenarios and decks that could actually legitimately play Ultron, but with this change, oh my god, they're gonna love it. Incredible change, and we will definitely be featuring some Ultron decks in the future. One of the most exciting changes out of the patch as well. So love the Ultron buff, love the Claw buff. You know, pretty good Sarn buff. Not super exciting, the same with Psylocke, but they definitely do things. That's nice. Terrified about the Leech buff personally. Darkhawk Nerf and Lady Deathstrike, I think fundamentally, I understand their reasoning. Like, I'm not just like looking the other way and just like rambling. Like, I understand where they're coming from. I still believe, given how there are way more problematic decks and cards running around, I think they missed the mark by a lot with these nerfs and their timing. Really, I think it's counter. Like, it just goes against a lot of what they've said in the past, right? Of like letting things like play out, like letting the meta evolve and people figure things out. This is the opposite of that. This is like, these are knee-jerk nerfs, in my opinion. And I just got a sub. I just got a sub off stream because reasons. Ice Story, thank you so much. Thank you for like just getting onto the video. So yeah, I'm gonna stop it here. We've talked about it for 20 minutes. It was a bit of a heated talk, I think, to a certain extent. I'm very passionate about this, you know, because I'm all in on Marvel Snap, but it's no secret that I do have some issues with the management of the game, in particular the balancing of it. I have been a little bit disappointed with balance patches as of late. There have been some really questionable changes. Again, bringing up the Adam Warlock. I know I bring it up a lot, but it does show a little bit of disconnection. I think I just feel like it's not a good look to present a change from Adam Warlock and then double down on it. And I feel like this is also like in kind of like more of that to a certain extent. A lot of great aspects of this patch, but for me personally, a little bit overshadowed by the negatives, and we'll see where this leads. Perhaps I'm overrating the Leech change. That could be the case, but I don't believe that is it. I think this is going to be really impactful, and it's going to be quite scary. But we'll see. Maybe the Leech change does take us in a new direction and is more impactful onto Hela than I initially thought it would be. But you know, that it does sound a little bit like Copian for me, but. I'm going to leave it there. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of these changes. You know, what do you feel are the most problematic cards in the game? You know, like, we don't have to align on everything. You can let me know what you think, and we can start talking about cards and stuff. The other day, we're all card game nerds. At least I think so. And yeah, this patch definitely has a lot to... A lot of talking points out of this patch. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Marvel Snap content. Hope you enjoyed the talk, my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. And tomorrow we'll be back at it with a little bit of Blink, and we'll be moving on to Nocturne and all that good stuff as well. So yeah, love you. Have a soul day. I'll see you tomorrow.